A series that we knew was going to be close, and we got that right from the get-go. Game number one, triple OT. In the end, TSM to come off victorious. I mean, Roy, going back and forth on that was crazy. First off, TSM get the hot start on the map, then M80 just to take over until we get the closest to ending, the closest second half in Challengers so far.
Yeah, that was an insane seesaw of a match, ending in a 3-OT. And you're absolutely right. I think the momentum was constantly shifting between both of these teams. But I think for me, what actually helped solidify a lot of TSM's success was winning the 50-50s, right? Like pistol rounds, they won both pistols. They got a bonus as well. A lot of these rounds helped propel TSM to get into that OT. Before OT, it looked a little dicey for them. But as soon as they got into that OT, that's when everything kind of changed for them.
It looked like we had some clean Valorant on the first half, if anything, as well, from the way that I was observing from my point of view, because it looked like M80 had a good game plan where they wanted to be a little bit more aggressive. I think it's also because of, you know, the nature of the Sentinel that they're playing. They can't really get too much active information, so they're trying to add a little bit more around the breach and arrays themselves. But then TSM had a good read into that, and we're capitalizing on a lot of these rounds until finally you had a timeout coming out from JuiceSpark. And I think the timeout from JuiceSpark showed a little bit less of like that aggression coming out from M80 and leveraging what they had in terms of the ult cycles. They cycled 2 ults per round after that. And then even in round number, like 3 rounds after the timeout, Okeanos was popping off with the operator, by the way. And it was able to already bring up another showstopper. And I think that's where M80 started looking a lot more strong on the defensive end, all because of the way that they were able to capitalize on the defensive end with Okeanos at the point with the operator.
I love that call out, and it was someone that we highlighted beforehand too, and it was crazy. Even like those little plays later on where you're sticking behind so everyone else can get across the rope in time, little things like that. But not quite enough to bring M80 over that finish line as TSM 16 of 14 instead. Leading with those first kills as well here, Vans. And just looking back at this, I mean, you're talking about that clean Valorant for this first half, and then the second half, like it was just crazy out there. And I felt like that's where TSM got to kind of capitalize off of things a little bit more.
100%. I think it's that second half where I think it's the reason of what we were thinking before, right? M80's coming out with a brand new comp, or we haven't seen it yet. And you're trying to test it out with this brand new roster. And I just felt that in general, M80 didn't have that greatest coordination. They still had a great plan of how they wanted to execute their attack sides, but they were caught off by certain points of aggression out of TSM, for example, on the eco that we'll observe in a sec. But if not, a lot of like miscommunication on how they wanted to play the pulse plan, for example, with B-Dog with the Molly, or even just how they wanted to scale their ultimates on the attack side that didn't work out on their side as well. So if that was a little bit cleaned up and we saw an M80 like they just had on a defensive end, this would have been definitely a one-sided affair and a victory for M80 on their map pick of Fracture. But that's where TSM thrives. You're able to identify these small mistakes, take advantage of these small mistakes, and when you're given these small chances to fight back in head-to-head duels, where you're looking at a roster like GMD and the rest of the crew of TSM, they will be able to fight against you toe-to-toe, and they can make the round work in their favor.
This map too, being able to highlight GMD here for being able to put a performance not just number-wise, but the util as well. Roy, some of the biggest moments from this map, I think, like all comes down to the Brimstones, whether it was the utility or just the impact they were able to make guns-wise.
Yeah, I swear, I've had this theory that Fracture is a Brimstone map, because every time it feels like the Brimstones are on top. B-Dog sitting at 26 kills, GMD sitting on top of the scoreboard as well. But I mean, I think Vance hit the nail right on the head. I think TSM had a really good game plan in terms of how they wanted to open the rounds and the sort of pace that they wanted to play at. And even Recoil, a player that we highlighted going into that match, was 6 and 2 on those openers, able to find kills even when in unfavorable positions, holding down the site on the defense side, kind of locking the sites down, punishing M80 for their kind of their little gaps in between their util, like we were talking about previously. And I think that was the key to push TSM into OT. And it felt like as soon as we got into OT, that's really when their game plan was really evident. They knew exactly how to play around the composition by now. They've already adjusted to how M80 is approaching the map and and kind of the style that they're playing at. And from there, it was just easy going for TSM.
I mean, we're talking about too how that second half, there was these small moments that really made that big impact. And Vans, going back to the pistol round, even just started there, those little mistakes, those little things that will have to be looked at.
Exactly. It's TSM taking the opportunity of what was missing here from M80's post-plant positions, right? So when you're looking at this fight and you're looking at the pistol round, you're finally seeing that the execution goes back to M80 with a full rotate back towards the A side, which worked very well. Like, look at the read and the call that's coming out, at least from Caillou. Everything's good at that point. They'll be able to get an open plant and basically hold up towards the A-holes. And the reason behind that is that you're trying to play as much stall as you could. This is a perfect composition of it. Look at the amount of util that's left. They still have paint shells going out, aftershock, salvo, molly. Technically on paper, you're not going to be losing this round.
Yep.
Caillou had to be sacrificial lamb no matter what at this point, because the other three are playing towards the hole. But when you're looking at it, there's a little bit of individuality. You see Okeanos trying to fight on his own, trying to delay, and using the paint shells to push them back and forcing TSM to push out towards A holes. And it looked like there was going to be a couple of good trades here, but you see B-Dog moving forward, trying to fight back against those players being pressured. And then he's like, oh crap, the players are dying. People are going in for the defuse. I have to go for the lineup. And as he goes for the lineup, this doesn't give a chance for Weeded to position himself to try to fight GMD inside that smoke. And then finally the molly lands and that's it. But this run right here is another one. They had a great read. Playing against the anti-eco of TSM, or sorry, play against the eco of TSM. They're playing far back, close to the ropes, but they did not expect that there was going to be an orbital strike dropping down. So a simple hit the tab or look at the top, see what's highlighted in yellow to be like, oh, maybe they could use something on top of that crunch. They got caught off guard. And seeing those moments here, Roy, it's a pistol round and bonus rounds or anti-ecos here for TSM that allowed for them to keep this game close in the first place until those small mistakes happened and you saw TSM able to make this and turn this into a game.
100%. And those are mistakes that you have to kind of, you know, at least at this point in time, kind of just brush off of your shoulder, because we still have a series ahead of us. And hey, we have to look at this map too, as we now are heading on over to Bind. For M80, losing their map pick, it definitely sucks a little bit there. Do not get me wrong. For Bind, this one's going to be coming out from TSM. We've gotten to see this, Roy, both weeks from TSM, though last week was a loss that it was still very close. So they definitely, there's a lot of tape on TSM for M80 to learn from. It's whether they clean up those little mistakes and take advantage.
Yeah, but they also, I mean, on that note, they also had footage to work on off Fracture as well, and it did not seem like it was enough. M80 had the shot, the sort of the fog, right? There's really no idea of how they wanted to approach the maps, but now we're starting to see a bit of a picture. And now we're going into Bind, one of the comfortable map picks here for TSM, understandably so, because their composition is just extremely dynamic. They have the Tejo, they have the Breach, and we're probably going to go into more specifics into the agents, but the way they play the map is just so util heavy, leaning into that sort of support system that we've been talking about setting up sim and sort of just being this like very relentless, constant pressure coming out from the support players as well as the duelists. And then you have, you know, you're forcing the defenders to constantly react and walk into recoil and walk into your sort of your trap setups. And it seems to be working extremely well for TSM. And I think I'm a little concerned for M80 going into the second map.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest thing that I'm looking for TSM, the fact that this is something that's a little bit more comfortable. Both weeks, we did get to see them pick up a different controller player. We're going from the Brim to the Astra, and then they take the loss. So I'm curious if that's something we're going to see going back to. And for M80, well, Vans, it could be anything. So I am intrigued. Let's head into our map. Sorry, not the map picks, as we already did that. Agent select. The next thing, the one step closer to the game. No information on TSM M80. It was a mirror match before. How similar do we think, Vans?
I think it's going to be fairly similar to the composition that we see on Fracture because of B-Dog on controller. And actually a little bit different this time around because I was expecting B-Dog to play a Brimstone usually on this map that he's known to do and play a good attack side with the operator. But this comp in itself is quite decent. I'm really liking the Okeanos on the Yoru. There's still some good spacing you can get from Weeded as the tail to allow Okeanos to get behind those enemy lines, but they're missing a little bit more of disruption on the hits on the site when they're going to play the attack side. So thankfully they start on the defensive first.
Right. I'm just looking at, like, Roy, I'm thinking back to the discussion we were having specifically about B-Dog in the virtual green room, talking about duelist arc and then now controller and then, you know, on the Clove, considering how aggressive you could be with that agent. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think B-Dog has the genes. Like, once you have the Valorant genes, you can kind of play any role and get value, and now you're being put on to a role that is...
Clove is wearing leggings, though, not jeans.
Wrong jeans.
All right, Vans, you're cut off. Roy, I'm sorry, Vans, ruined it for all of us over here, but we got a match to get into anyways. So, Vans, you can sit about think about what you did, and you guys don't have to listen to us anymore. Let's listen to our casters, Nerds and Lemon, for Bind. Take it away, friends.
Formal apology from resident Canadian here. We don't claim, we said we were polite, not funny, but we'll work on all the best.
Oh, no.
That's my duo. I can flame him all I want.
Well, I mean, all I gotta say is, right now, I'm so ecstatic to be seeing them. I love Clove on Bind. I think Clove it's real, especially for B-Dog, with how aggressive they were playing in some moments and how much initiative they like to take, which the desk was talking about. I think it fits, and it just excites on a map that they have to win if we want to send this to game 3.
TSM, and kind of like what the desk said, this is a map that favors TSM 13-1 against Winthrop. See how this goes, though. Now M80 with a deadlock. Sentinel play has been really good at the delays. It'll be on the A side, though. Meanwhile, TSM have just paved the way towards B. But on the off angle is Okeanos, and we've only seen Azure on this and Pearl. This is his best secondary, and now he's kind of smoked off the site. M80 want to pull rotations from the opposite and just have everybody in place before we did. I guess off salvos has already found Sim. So TSM have their backs against the wall. Quick peek, quick headshot out of Vora. And more salvos to stop M80's entry, to allow Vora to cross over to a different angle. Or your flash gives some space for M80 as they start to surround the middle box, and they'll trade against TSM. But time is running out. Spike tapped, draws in TSM's fire. And now one on the other side of the box. It's just a matter of time before TSM finish off that player, but they waited, they hesitated. And for what? Seven now has to clutch the 1v2, and he can't. And Okeanos won't have time to defuse. That came down to the wire.
Again, right? Weeded carrying the weight of the world on their shoulders. 4K for Weeded. But at the end of the day, you might be Atlas holding up the globe, but the weight of it is still strong, and sometimes you slip a little bit. It falters. B site, notoriously one of the harder sites to retake as well. And you talked about, you know, we say, right, Winthrop. This is the TSM that 13-1 Winthrop. This is what we see out of them.
Been strong on pistols. They've had a strong start on their offense last map, last round, but you can't count out M80. And if things start going bad, how M80 can take a timeout and just really download what to do against TSM. That's how they were able to streak back and make it a 7-5 half in M80's favor. But early peak, and Sim wins that through the box too against Bao. M80. I like how TSM, just as soon as they get a pick, they just flood in. They waste no time. They go in with confidence. That'll be a safe plant too.
We also do see a fair bit of utility Weeded was able to purchase up still to try and get some value. Vora clearing out most of the front site, but never mind, the utility doesn't even matter. They're just gonna fall so fast, and they're definitely playing to die to the spike here, deny any alt orbs.
This is a TSM comp that they're pretty practiced on. They actually play two versions of this because they've gone to Bind twice in the last two matches. The first time with the Brimstone, which was that 13-1, and then the Astra, which not as successful. They lost the trust in Bug, so GMD is exploring whether he wants to be on the Astra or the Brim, and judging on how well he did on Fracture, I think the Brim makes a lot of sense. You kind of heard the desk how much a Brim can really carry on maps like that.
I will say the Trust and Plug is a very strong team that also really, they like Bind. So I have to see it. M80, I believe, last time they played Bind, they haven't played Bind, if I'm not mistaken. No, they haven't. So even for them, new showing. It's going to be the rifle round, getting started for the defensive side. 2-3. One thing I will say, they have contested showers here really early, so they are taking some control of the different lanes, but map control has been given up a lot.
The Viper wall down from Bao. 7 waiting for the call. Watching mid-map too. Lurk being brought back from recoil. His drone, I think, got shot down there from TSM. So I think M80 may know something is up and they're going to play as safe as they can. Push up in hookah and all the way at the backside. If you're We did, they're going to allow TSM to walk in like they did before. And that's what We did exactly before, of just hiding in smokes and popping out when TSM have a sense of security. But Okeanos has had free reign of the map, gets a first pick. He's punished once TSM hunt him down, and with Viper walls up, M80 are obscured from this spike being planted, but they could pop out and surprise them at any moment.
With this retake, the difference is you have Bao towards hookah. Timings, though, so clean.
The timings of not fully waiting for reinforcements, but just off the salvos. It's back-to-back rounds where We did allows them to plant, goes for salvos, gets a pick, and then the rest of M80 punch in.
But it works a lot cleaner this time. They don't allow TSM to set up. Yeah, I was about to say that the timing there is huge, especially being able to push in. And speaking of We did, we talked about how they've been really solid. They have their ultimate already for round number 4. Okeanos getting the first also helps here, getting proactive. Nice combination of utility. I don't think GMD was prepared for it.
Oh, the salvos really do just cover almost the entire site. That is a tricky route for the spike carrier. You can't even sit inside the box, or at least that's what GMD was trying to do. It's an orb grab play for Sim to get the showstopper. There's the flash, but Sim with the cleaner shot before stun came through. Now showstopper acquired from Sim, and oh my god, the Armageddon from We did.
The combo.
Absolutely cooked.
Very good stuff out of them, contesting places early. I mean, M80 need to take advantage of early ultimates, and if Okeanos falls, the reaction needs to be just as fast on the defensive side. Oh, look at the showers. They've walked up in it. I have contested short, though, but if a player gets popped out of showers, finds the timing crucially for TSM on the attack, it falls apart on the site.
B-Dog just got fault lined away, so if TSM and Showers use util, surely this Tail player turns around. We did has a chance. It's still alive.
I mean, it's We did.
Of course it is, but then there's the army of TSM and the chance of their fans somewhere in the world gives them the energy to pull through, but only by one. And with this deadlock wall that was thrown from Showers, it's making it painful. It will force M80 to take heaven control. They're on opposite ends of each other too. Kayu's gonna have to push through Showers or through mid.
M80 on the retake, they don't have much to work with. They do, I mean, play to contain here to some degree would be nice, but the TP's just right there, so it doesn't even matter. Gonna go for a save on Bao, and they can't even play for exits realistically here unless they want to go towards that TP.
Yeah, it was critical to have recoil on that post plan. It's reminiscent of how the last map went, of when you were able to have GMD with the mollies, and then you have a sentinel thrown in there, and of course, even the Tejo on the post plan can't deny what positions you can force out of your opponent. So really great job from TSM, and yeah, it was a cool Armageddon play to shut down Sim, but hey, you'll trade 1 for 1 on that ult.
I mean, the 1 for 1 ult trade, solid out of them. But at the end of the day, man, I'm just thinking to myself, it's an early timeout of M80, okay.
Oh yeah, really early.
Really early. I mean, it's good though. It's good though, considering that, you know, they had a really solid retake. They got it on the bonus round for TSM. So when they had the weaponry, it was the anti-eco. And now that it's going to be rifles in the mix, you do have a buy-up potentially here. They're going to be discussing some of the retake protocols, potentially taking some more space. Something I noticed was, you know, we do have Showers control being taken while short's being set up, but in those moments, you kind of fracture. We did was alone, and B-Dog had to fall back. Couldn't really play it together, so We did falls early there when they could have somehow like helped them or thrown some sort of utility in the mix, but just being more consistent about what they're doing, what the game plan is.
And Weed has been doing the Lord's work. M80 are even having close rounds because he's doing. Like, he's just waiting for TSM to draw in. He's doing. He's doing a lot. Just the salvos, getting kills every single time on B. It's been difficult at B, but now TSM may have found out it's just going to be a lot easier at A.
At what point is it I doing?
Yeah, if he has no team,
right?
it's going to be I did.
I did. I was about to say, at what point is it I did?
Oh, on the off angle, great chance from Okeanos. He's needed to make these big plays happen. He's been quiet here and there on bind so far, but now you've shut down a key member of TSM.
And just waiting out. Like, they still have pressure towards Showers out of TSM. Recoil is just lurking up there. So they have a TP angle if they need it. Like, it's set up for future success regardless of if they win here or not.
7 has 2 flashes, and it's not even going to need it. Spots out the haircut out of the Yoru and gives them another one. And with the Viper wall back up, this is kind of the same strat from M80 to maybe just draw TSM in to obscure where their defense is, but
then they TP out towards A because they have Showers control. They can pop fast out on it. B-Dog's alone there, and you have success. There it is.
30 seconds left. Barrier deployed.
yeah, nice crystal ball. Recoil on the post plant would be big too. Now they're gonna have U-Haul info.
Spike planted.
It's B-Dog. But the Bucky is still gonna hurt whether you know it's there or not. And there is a good spam from Weeded, sussing out Recoil. Good comms for TSM, and Spike is planted. Here's a retake from M80. Still have good weaponry. And they still have B-Dog lurking around with the Bucky at close range, and with the smokes, you can create these close quarter scenarios. And with the Rolling Thunder, TSM try to stress M80. Now the Spike will get halfway, and 7 can't do anything about it, so M80 will keep things close.
That's not ready.
And the plan out of TSM was set. They had, they had Brim lurking up, GMD pushing through. They had the positioning as well. It was there. Unfortunately, I did. 9-3, yeah, definitely I did moment here, right? They're just popping off. Okeanos really solid on the off angles, though, not to discredit them. It's the first bloods that have been carrying and helping out on the defensive side, because only on Yoru and Bao finding that pick. Honestly, expected Weeded to be the one to grab that. TSM, they're doing really good about, the fakes and the rotates, and it was a very solid plan, but the rotate was just a little stronger. The protocols for M80. Weeded, go kill. We have numbers.
And besides Okeanos going on some adventures, like M80 are just going to stand and react to TSM. They stacked B as soon as all the noise was made, followed through at A, and still won the round playing this kind of cat and mouse game. And Weeded continues to just be an absolute menace at B. If I was TSM, I would never touch B again. This guy is terrifying, and recoils down to 1 HP, and even through the Yoru clone. What a setup there from Okeanos.
And now you just have 3 players down towards long. They want to exec to some degree, but there's so much stall utility here. If they TP, you have Okeanos, who's just holding down Showers. You don't have that same security with recoil.
Losing Sim, it's how do you try to burst into his site with all the Viper smokes and all the hell that there is without him?
Left.
Well, there's your sheer gunfire, but 7 in a 1v3, like TSM just can't get past these smokes, can't get through this B main door. They haven't tried really going around hookah, but I don't know if you want to do that against a Tejo.
I was gonna say round 6, 11 kills about to be done. Like round 6, they are so close to potentially having 3 Armageddons in this game. Well, definitely a second, right? Like, Weeded is so strong on the Tejo, as well as just having impeccable aim. Oh,
My cat alarm went off. Thanks, Roy. I just threw my phone, so anyway. We're just gonna ignore that. Sorry, go ahead.
no, But a little comedy in this time, especially with a tense situation of 3-3, makes sense. Off-bound for Okeanos.
Oh, the aftershock, and Okeanos hesitates if he was going to take damage from that or not. This is a safer position for the op anyway. Already pressuring him back. We did. He's going to try and swing with him. No, it's the dimensional drift. If he can't get through them, get behind them, I guess. And off the flash in the middle of 3 players is just causing a lot of stress on TSM. But didn't actually want to pull the trigger.
Full info on 3, but the last one's still lagging behind. GMD's not there.
Oh, then the molly. This is so cooked. TSM, they're just trying to take everybody down with them. M80, now salvos are stopping them from getting on the spike, and it's not even halfway. And yeah, they've run out of time. Officially, Bao has to leave the scene of the crime, and TSM get away with it.
I like it. They not as overcooked, not as just like pushed out onto the A site more than anything with a split. They left, like, they just flooded out, overwhelmed M80. And that change is really solid out of them here. Shot out of Okeanos was really strong here, but as you can see, the flood from TSM as well as the site hold worked out in the long run.
Light armor buys too. Got a judge from Bao. Like, I'm locked in. Is it going to be an early pit from Bao? Can secure B long or B main. Got the sonic sensors, deadlock to deny hookah. So TSM's best chances have been over at A. You just are now conditioned to worry about if someone's early peeking at showers. We've seen Okeanos there sometimes. That's usually been Sim that seemed to open things up, and off that slight pivot, he gets the edge against Okeanos. And that's an orb too. Close to a lot of volts if you're TSM.
They're aware, I think, of Okeanos as well. So they're like, all right, well, we have to be cognizant of it. And talking about ultimates, right? 3 stacked up for M80. They have the Armageddon for Weeded, Viper's Pit if they really want to pop it for the security of the post plant. But Caillou with a deadlock can also grab a player out of thin air.
Wait, Sim, wow. What a diff there.
We done.
Holy, he's so crazy when he swings in. Especially against someone pre-aiming, and it's just an all-out scrap through main. M80 close. TSM get through the smoke, they get the spike, and it's just Bao in the 1v4 with a judge, a pit, and now nothing. 5-3 now for TSM.
Managed to get it up. And I mean, again, right? They've just been able to contest a lot of space. This time they take it a lot slower. They're not going to be going fast on the exec. They didn't have the alarm ringing. They were like, all right, we're going to be going in off of the pace of M80. And now they have the leg up into this. We get to see the replay here. Something I wanted to discuss was, I mean, it feels like they're cognizant of, all right, Okeanos should be playing on these weirder angles. Let's take it a lot slower when we peek into them.
Been a lot about Sim and Okeanos and what they can open up with, but look at this walk-up from M80 with all the sheriffs. TSM were at the crossfire. They expected this. What a read. And we won't be able to pick up that weapon because GMD is here. And he's got 3 this round. And he had the combat stim too. TSM will be able to recover this spike, no problem. And they've only dropped 7 throughout this, so I would say this is a great round for TSM.
Find maybe one more out of Bao with the trade and keep yourself a Vandal. Sounds pretty solid. There it is. The trade to come through.
Ooh, didn't want to get...
Yeah, I was going to say, GMD didn't get the ace.
Cutting through.
Unfortunate for them, but yeah, TSM, more success over at A, having the deadlock on the post plan. It's just this now main scrap. And then, you know, you're against an M80 that just saved. So TSM... I think just sending Sim in, as long as you don't lose him too early, that's been the demise of TSM. If Sim can't live on the entry, like before the entry happens, that's been the problem. But if Sim can just relax a little bit, then they're good.
Portal closed.
We're chilling, vibing. Okeanos has been kind of like that counterpart, right, into Sim. Mike's gonna go off. 6 secured. The half is secured for TSM. Whereas for M80, having a lot harder time of it, especially as of late. I think this is the first team to find 3 in a row. walking straight into the fire in the fray. The logic was there to, you know, have team fights on the eco, but it just does not land. Speaking of eco, ultimate economy looking solid. 7-1 off of theirs is a crucial point for the attacking side, as well as the showstopper and the orbital strike. But TSM has been so good about reading the pacing, the timing of these plays. Now back towards shower control. The wall, the positioning, the fact that they have a 3-stack here, and you have a Viper's Pit as well towards B site. Better hold out of M80, at least on the switch up.
TSM have showstopper though, so I'm waiting to see what kind of crime Sim can get away with.
Right
so
here.
first you just had to jiggle around showers because sometimes Okeanos or others have challenged at this point. Grab orb, now you got 3 ults to work with. And this is the flank, the mid flank that Bao was done in that previous round. So this time it catches recoil, was isolated.
And the combo of Deadlock Tejo has been so crucial for M80. And when they find and capture Sim here, it seems like, yeah, that was the main point down.
Last player standing.
Yeah, we did is so good with these salvos. And okay, the orbital strike was a lot. TSM did what they could, but it was the M80 defense that prevented them from ever planting. It's the we did salvos into just playing as far back as they can. I thought that was going to be a good round for TSM with just a game plan seeming easy in my mind. You just send Sim, go kill with Showstopper, explode into A. That's been the weaker site.
But then Deadlock.
Yeah.
Deadlock. And that's the thing about it, is, right? As soon as you can capture, right? As soon as you can capture one of those duelists for both sides, by the way, for Recoil and for Caillou, you immediately, you know, change the flow of the game. Because these duelists have been so crucial on the impact. A lot of utility to flush out anyone on Hookah. Gives them a good amount of space here. The split's there, but look who else is there. The Viper Spit. This is going to be a Q battle if I've ever seen one.
But it's pretty extended in, and there's only one place this Viper could be sitting in. And Sim sussed it out, denies the pit, and there's the Armageddon from the defense, from Weeded, to stop the immediate entry. But Sim turns and burns before M80 could get any sense of security, before M80 thought they could have map control off the Armageddon. TSM off these swings are so mechanical, and you gotta thank Sim for that. Now they've got more than enough to get this round done.
Symposium of bullets flying into the faces of their enemies. And this post-plant setup is like they've bunkered down. They have control of most of site, the extremities as well. Elbow, they don't need control because they have it contested. And now CT's been lost. You have to save here for M80, the leg up. Found by TSM. B-Dog just playing for anyone, hunting around. Vora, Veracity showing through. They're hungry. They want another pick.
Uh-oh.
Yeah,
that wasn't
indeed.
because B-Dog just has no money. You needed every weapon you can get to try and do something before the half ends for M80.
And they're hunting. I mean, TSM know this. They're aware. And they have the hunt through on the other end of it, but the time's just going to run thin within the second of impact. Seems like Vora the only casualty of the hunt, but again, a Q battle coming through. We see ultimates back and forth for both these teams. 7-4 on the half. I mean, 5 is what you want to see for M80. They have not yet available for B-Dog, and we know how crucial B-Dog was on some of those retakes. So not only that, but it's the last round of the half. Like I feel like that's going to be crucial for them to stay alive in the later parts.
Yeah, TSM just saw someone cross to that corner at B main. Also, Okeanos bought an op and no armor. So they're putting a lot of stock. Yeah, a lot of stock into this round. But he won't get any action over at A. Sonic sensors all over B. But of course, we did in the wings with the salvos, which have always claimed someone from TSM. That'll be a free orb for TSM with the Viper wall going up and down to see if TSM are going to be caught out in the open. Some info. The grab that is going to limit TSM's entry and actually isolates him away from his team, and GMD falls in the process. Now you make sounds, and oh, it's the Yoru clone, and you still don't even know where this op is, and Okeanos is smoked off from his team, so it's a bit disjointed from M80. But they did catch TSM at the heel, but only by 1. They did damage, but not enough kills. As this M80 retake is gonna rely on the flanks, and it's B-Dog that'll get back into the fight with the ult. And with the Annihilation, that secures yet another one, and M80 turned all the odds around.
Again, it became crucial to leave B-Dog alive for the retake, as well as them being positioned down towards long, allowing themselves to get that wrap into it and then pop out with full confidence, take some of those swings, and retake gives them the 5th. So when they swap onto attack, they're not completely in deficit. We don't have that 8-4 half as we go through all of the situations, getting cooked on the replays and getting cooked by those ults. But regardless, with M80 bringing it back like this, the fact that they managed to carry that momentum forward here, we've got to give them not only a vote of confidence, but put TSM in a bit of a kerfuffle, a tech pause. That's a kerfuffle if I've seen one.
I'm just still so surprised TSM lost that last round because they had only lost GMD, and Sim got isolated, was still able to live on. But then there's just like this volley of ultimates, first the Annihilation and everything else. Like TSM have been really limited by the defensive util of whether it's a controller or a sentinel, and that's just been the beauty of those delays coming out of M80. But they'll be on offense this time, and this is where Okeanos has to really shine. He can't really like explode into a site the same way Sim does, and you have to play these mind games with the Yoru clones, and TSM have been shooting those clones a lot, to be fair, so Okeanos is definitely getting value, but it's not going to hit the same as Sim in terms of the speed and how you're approaching.
And honestly, I think that's why B-Dog having, playing on the Clove kind of works into it for the walk-up rather than specifically just for setup. Because Sim, right, you need to have 7 setting up the util for Sim to go in. Whereas on the flip side, just Okeanos flashes, walks in alongside B-Dog, and then they have 2 walking duelists. It's like having Arena, but with smokes, and you have the double smokes on bow as well. Tech pause, though. Gonna give, hopefully some of these players mentals to cool off a bit going into the half. Always like to see, how these teams, take these tech pauses. Seems like there's a bit of, okay, interesting. Lag. Okay, this is, normally I don't talk about it, but lag on Discord for M80. And the reason I bring that up is because, like, that comms, right? That's got to be, like, a bit frustrating in terms of the structure for them.
Hopefully that's resolved quickly, because I feel like with the Clove, you don't get to see this too often on a map like this. And just the additional smokes, plus the Viper, plus the 3 from the Brimstone, plus the Deadlock, it's this TSM slower style on before that. They were fine with that, and B-Dog hasn't been able to add to this equation as much compared to how he's contributed in the past. So it's a very selfish agent in that front that hasn't been able to frag out like a quote secondary duelist. I kind of always have seen Clove as like a duelist in controllers clothes, but
yeah, no, that is the view. Contesting towards showers again in short, so they have the split on A, but there's only 2 players on here. It's just stall out of TSM. What?
Wait, recoil with the headshots? Woo! Clean stuff. And now that means M8, I thought they were going to go for the plan with all the smokes in place, and I think they heard salvos from Vora and got a little scared. And then they go to exploit where did those salvos come from, and they've met some competition on the other side. 2v2. Coming down to the last few members, just like the last pistol. And it's Vora that has some info util to use. Okeanos and B-Dog are just going to be at arm's length, able to crossfire and trade if needed, while also needing to be in vision of the spike, and that'll be Okeanos' job. Now spotting one from U-Haul, 7 wrapped all the way around, and B-Dog is just out in the open, got out of showers to suss out this player in U-Haul, and M80 just get caught by a trap.
Beautiful showcase of how Teo and Breach, even on a pistol without, insane levels of gunplay and utility, work really well together hand in hand in this current meta of like, all right, we don't necessarily need as much info. We just kind of fight our way through, brawl our way through into these fights. If our opponents are flashed, we don't need a Sova Dart. They can't see anything. They're stunned out of position. In this case, it was salvos and just really solid headshots for TSM as they push in towards A and now force M80 back not only to a save, but also just they're gonna put their backs against the wall here, hopefully.
The sheriff headshot, gross. And with that, I mean, TSM have won every pistol round, so always getting to start off on a good foot. And then with the SMGs, as everyone from M80 pops out of the smoke, you can't check every corner. And TSM are just popping heads left and right.
Satisfied.
That's a full house. Recoil in 7, 2 and 3, hand in hand, 9 and 5, and builds on their momentum. We see a 5-7 half. You expect the team who's down by 5 to do everything in their power to get that 7-7 scoreline, but TSM snatching that away from them. And considering, right, TSM on the defense, not buying up as insane, that is such a clean shot and such a beautiful replay. Allows them to now probably build into this, right? I don't expect the 10th, but it's definitely possible considering we have Sim on the Vandal buy, 7 with an SMG of their own. Same thing with Vora. JMD with the head tap potential, but Sim getting overzealous early.
Yeah, Sim's tried to activate, and sometimes for TSM, at least that 3-man core from last season, Sim has been the one that's had to salvage TSM before. This time he'll be missing, and more dominoes fall for TSM, but good for M80 and their chances to close the gap in the scoreline. Now feeling like the site is going to be a lot weaker without this deadlock, so M80's just try to be a little bit more prepared to the pre-aim of this defense, especially someone like 7 that popped off last round. And it's as easy as like that for M80 after adjustments.
We did, we done. We here, we did. Who has been amazing. One off their ultimate, 19-10 stat-wise, 3K on the round previously, and the pacing from M80 in that moment, way slower. They're allowing TSM to kind of get over aggro, which is to be expected on these rounds. You're trying to find a leg up, and even on bind, right, where you go and get proactive into lane control, so you have map control as a defender. Retakes are hard as always. Okay, Anos gets great amount of info on the front of site. Going a touch deeper for TSM.
Oh, his timer ran out. He's a little bit closer than he expected, and to send his Euroclone up to the front door and through the smoke to flash them and cause even more delay. TSM is very limited at the front door, and M80 are forward. They got Spike planted. Now they can try to take care of Elbow, and it's off the drone. It's off M80 with a lot more of just a better plan of their approach to B and not hesitating.
Oh, and speaking of hesitation, a little unsure for a second there on the retake, but they end up falling back for the save. Makes sense, the economy is not that strong, but Mady's soon gonna learn about it. I like the push in on the site, the bombardment of utility on all the points. We do see a pain shell to try and stop it, especially off of the Yoru ultimate, allowing Okeanos to clear out majority of it. They TP, I think, as well to try and catch someone off guard, but it does not land here. And TSM, I mean, they feel a little bit. This is going to be a broken buy for them. Oh, yeah, they're going to be buying up, I guess, to some degree. But I was just going to say, this ultimate was really huge. And the timer, right, was running thin. The fact that Okeanos had the foresight to be like, all right, we're hiding away here before we pop on out, it's just brilliant.
Now light armor buys for TSM. Starting to worry a little bit about that M80 comeback, and I could easily see this go into an extended overtime, just like our previous map did. That's just how close it's been. Now deadlocking till getting shot down. Did I curse it?
I was about to say, I fear in OT, M80 would probably, I feel like M80 would lose.
See if you're right. That's how Util at least is
I don't want to
gone
curse it
out in the
either
grab
now.
net. Yeah. And Recoil could easily just, as soon as they feel like M80 are getting prepared, could draw them into the Annihilation, or he could do what they did in the past and wait for all the chaos to ensue and then pull Annihilation so that everyone's shooting at each other and not the nested target. So, M80
Good
getting
info
info
on B.
at B and A. With the Viper wall, they're giving the illusion that M80 want to press into U-Haul, but the spike is heading that direction too. It all depends on how this exchange into U-Haul goes.
Oh.
And it's 1-for-1. Sight getting weaker. TSM only have one there. And it's GMD.
30 seconds
And he
left.
pops out of the smoke to surprise the spike carrier. Goes 1-for-1. There's the Annihilation from Recoil. Looking for that member in U-Haul. This M80 scrap away. And it's just up to We Did. And holy cow, TSM shut the door on A so quick.
The retake crumbled apart. And I thought it was, honestly, I think M80's strategy was really solid. It's just the positioning, GMD, right? Not going for like super early aggro and the trades back and forth. Making sure that they stall out that plant for the rest of the team to come in on the flood. I feel like this type of play out of M80, you know, when they get onto the site, they're starting to roll slowly in and have only portions of control rather than full site control. Make it rather difficult for them to get the plants through. So now going into a little bit of a default to see how TSM is going to play. But the thing is, they lose control of showers. They did send the Yoru clone in there, it didn't get broken. So they have no info on that.
TSM denying orb there. Might have been a good read because
no.
Bao was getting close to the pit. And TSM have now lost vision of A main, but the spike is actually at B long, so we'll go tune in and see how they'll deal with all this deadlock util. There's a sonic sensor right at the front. I don't think the Taeho drone pinged much, and if they're really worried, they could just Armageddon the site, but they're just gonna try and be as quiet as they can and make sure they check elbow. That's what M80 have done better than TSM, is how they push this corner, but you got sort of a high-low, at least a double up. And there's the exchange, and it favors M80. And now they've taken care of those defenders, and they feel like they can go for a plan, especially with that deadlock wall right at the front door. But an orbital strike from TSM denies that plan opportunity, giving a few more seconds for TSM to get around this deadlock util. And they're taking their sweet time dismantling it. And especially with the Viper Molly from Bao, TSM are taking unnecessary damage. Somehow still winning duels, though. B-Dog tried to challenge 1v3 in that hallway. He gets shut down. But this is necessary time for M80 to kill. So they could win off of that. Then Sim, I mean, had crumbs of HP left. Can't do anything about that. But this builds a front for TSM to ring around the Rosie on the box and 11 HP and one person left for TSM to go up to 11.
Trade back and forth, and we even had B-Dog, you know, taking some of the damage away. But flying through the air kind of broke the momentum and allowed them to flood back in. Trades were clean out of TSM. And when it came down to the wire, they managed to swap through a time out here for M80 to discuss, all right, We Did fell pretty early there. They needed some of those, you know, ultimates. We saw GMD pop theirs as well on a counter. Seven's gonna have one as well for the retake, and they just need 2 more good retakes and it's over.
Ooh.
9-3? Oh, yeah, I was about to say. I mean, with the kickoff grand final series, right? The testing 9-3s, and I want to see how this 9-3 goes, but it's looking kind of interesting.
Some neons too. Okay, you got some cloaks too.
It's
some really cool comps that come out of Challengers too.
I love Challengers. Like that's kind of the best
You
part.
better.
Oh, I better.
Was that a threat?
No, I just think to me, it's beautiful, right? To see some of these young players. We talk about Okeanos, right? Who's a very solid player, you know, trialing and getting into tier 1, as well as the rest of this team. They're all fighting for it. And actually talking about Challengers, M80 and TSM, they were head-to-head in Ascension. This is a different squad of M80 for clarity. This isn't the same team. But I know TSM, their core, they did go up against M80. So there is something to prove for the core of TSM in this story of like, hey, we are currently winning. We're doing such a good job against a team or at least a brand that took us out previously.
Just how good Caillou has been, especially at throwing the deadlock util between Sim's entry and the rest of the team. And TSM have had to really rely on Sim to just live on these entries, and just how much damage he took from mollies being thrown. And look at this, Okeano shut down TSM on the run, and the carpet bomb went through. You almost never see the Armageddon kill anything. We did is just the GOAT, and this will allow them to plant by TSM a 3 versus 4 retake. Sim with the molly flushes out one showstopper. And he's ready to put a stop to this offense, but can't find anyone. It's hide and go seek. And the annihilation from oh no, is that from, it was from Caillou actually. And now it's 2v2. That kill would be confirmed there by Caillou, leaving GMD to tap the spike, to draw out, to isolate this 1v1, but had no health. And Val closes it out for M80.
Man, they threw so much at that. Broke the economy of TSM. We did popping off on that positioning, and I think what happened was that they expected this to go the other way. They expected it to start from a different direction, and so by the time they got run out, they died. That was crucial to the rest of the site being taken. Elbow was lost. CT could have been grabbed off on that. We did see GMD doing such a good job of grabbing it back, but in the 1v1 and in the 1v2, they could not clutch it through.
TSM walk up stopped. And it's tracks by We Did. And look, it's like the crossfire's already ready. It's like M80 are in TSM's minds. They have the TSM playbook. And now they can drone up into A and get some info. Oh, and Sim tried to surprise them, thought that M80 were going to walk up, and TSM are losing bodies left and right. It was a save, so you're just throwing anything and trying to see what sticks. This will be M80 trying to close the gap, but
Spike planted.
It's all about how this next gun round's going to go for TSM.
Yeah, M80 starting to climb up. I mean, it's an eco round, so whatever exits we can find for M80 are good. But for TSM, for them, they have, just 2 more rounds to lock in. M80, this is everything for them. It's do or die. They either start the momentum here, bring it back 13-11, or maybe even overtime, and then take us to game number 3. And this series feels like a game 3 series. On attack here. The vibes are there. We did lagging behind, does not pay the price, gets out of dodge, and it's forced out here. Take 2 down. For it.
Huh? That's good, because that makes We Did like 3 away from Armageddon, and we saw how well the last one went when it was in back elbow, that back hallway in B.
I was gonna say 4th Armageddon in this game.
Too many. I can't count past 3.
I was about to say. I mean, I was gonna say, like I was gonna say, there's probably, it feels like you can get. We could probably get more than 2.5. Maybe not 3, perhaps like 2.5 on the statistics. But at the end of the day, this is the round where, in my mind, right? If M80 can, get this hurdle, force TSM potentially into a timeout. Oh.
Committing with that. I was like. They used the Euro clone to get steps, and then they heard the up, and I was like, wait, no way, okay.
The re-swing on a
Of course Okeanos peeks that. I've asked so many times, like, who peeks that? And it's Okeanos, so it's going to be the answer every time. And B-Dog closed out. Here's the Armageddon from M80 to flush out, or no, not from M80, TSM to stop the elbow push from M80. Now there's some delay created. Hookah control, main control, all up to Vor at the back, and now Sim with the op in place. Rotations coming from A. M80 gotta figure out how to pressure this up, but it's the orbital strike as into Hookah. And TSM just tripped up M80 with everything in the playbook, and it's just We Did left in a 1v4.
stalling out the point as much as possible. And match point to be attained here. The hurdle of the double
30
digits not
seconds left.
found for M80. Vora, gonna pick it up. I talked about Veracity, how hungry they are for not only picks, but also for success here. TSM 1 away from taking down the bombastic titans that are M80. On the flip side, though, they've used one of their timeouts. I believe they still have one more. Correct me if I'm wrong, Type Beat, but at this point, it wouldn't even matter too much, right? The mentals of the players, the consistency. Okeanos, you'd want them to find a bit more impact, I would say. They have been in terms of getting the first bloods, but if you look on the counterpart Sim and head-to-head, just being able not only to find the first bloods with the op shots, but also being able to be so proactive in those moments.
And because we just didn't save last round, he has an SMG to work with, which, depending on where it is, couldn't be too bad. You got the Rolling Thunder, and here's the push from 7. TSM want to put a bow on top of this series and this map, but M80 won't go down without a fight. They try to bark back. They will not go down with a whimper. It is the spike going down. GMD has a chance to punish, and even the spike carry had stopped. And anticipating that, and the pit could have come out earlier from Bao to maybe protect the carrier. And now the pit's not going to be used at all. They're going to take the spike elsewhere. 1v2, definitely possible from Bao, although they are being slowed.
I was to say no utility, though. All the utility towards the A sites is going to be about the gunplay. Unsure of the positioning, though. They're split up here. This is very doable.
Oh, not the back.
Like this.
And TSM have done it. Not just giving M80 their first map loss, but their entire series loss in Challengers here in week 3. This is a core of TSM that lived up to a lot of that hype last season, but fell short in Ascension, fell short in playoffs, and this could be the TSM redemption arc we've all been waiting for.
And this is the TSM Bind. They have been one of the most solid teams on Bind, other than I would say like Trust and Plug in Challengers. And yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the pressure was on for M80. They had the momentum swing. Unfortunately, 2 rounds were the only difference between them for TSM and victory, who now get to be crowned 3-0 champs, at least so far, and have the chance, you know, they want to be the team that goes like on the full sweep, right? In the Swiss stage, they are that team at the top of the board, the 1 seed going into playoffs in any, stage and in any part.
And this was a team effort out of TSM, and not just the sim show. Like I got some vibes from last season. Clearly Recoil and Vora add so much to this with the Tejo, with the KJ, that which ended up working out in the end on Fracture to going to a long OT, but still being resilient enough to finish out strong. So big congratulations to TSM. We're gonna look forward to hearing what the desk has to say and maybe what stuff's gonna be said in the interview. So don't go anywhere.
We started extremely late. I kid you not, we have 3 weeks of practice. I said this in the first week. We walked into the first week having 1 week of practice, right? But the amount of work that we've put in compared to everyone else is absurd. It's like an hour and a half to nearly 2 hours of server, 4 blocks, and review afterwards, and with homework afterwards, right? The team is like gelling together pretty consistently. Obviously every team has some days where we're peaking higher than others. I think we recognize what we need to fix instantly, and I think that's what makes this team so special. I always put 100% into whatever team that chooses to play with me. Obviously, Blinn was a more unknown team. It was like a collegiate esports club. while M80 is like, you know, the principal of tier 2, you know, they have made essentially grand finals twice now, you know, so they obviously have that level of prestige to them. And so that obviously has to affect my demeanor as well when it comes to just overall like how I present myself, right? Because right now I'm not just establishing and representing like, you know, like a group of people that enjoy the game. I'm representing like a high profile organization that has had tons of gravity in the tier 2 scene, right? So I obviously have to hold myself up to a higher standard, and trying to do that. But I'm also blessed and grateful that I was chosen to be able to, you know, fill in the shoes. It's great to work with Don. Don always, you know, keeps us in check. You know, Drew is mainly on the strategic side, and Don is mostly on the performance and mental side. Obviously, we are younger players, so obviously sometimes we can get a bit volatile. You know, not volatile. That might be a bad way to say it, but like, you know, sometimes we do have too much fun in practice, and you know, Don reels us back in, keeps us in line, makes us remember.
All right, 2 teams undefeated coming into this, and in the end, TSM are going to have a 2-0 victory over M80 to be one of the sole remaining undefeated teams here in Challengers so far. Roy, I mean, they went into their map pick on this one. We got to see a little bit of a different comp coming out from M80, and in the end, wasn't enough to try and take it to a map 3.
Absolutely. I think TSM came guns blazing. Their game plan was extremely clear from the get-go. Again, we talked about it so much on the desk already, but I'm going to keep bringing this up because it really does feel like the TSM identity is sort of emerging, right? It's this very explosive, very utility-heavy composition that allows Sim to sort of get active. But then you have players like GMD, and you have players like Seven, and you have players like Recoil, who are able to just sort of have room to impose their will on the game while chaos is happening in the late rounds and the clutch factor. There's just so many elements to it, and I'm really digging this sort of evolution for TSM.
See, while you mentioned that TSM had a sound game plan of, you know, playing their map pick, being comfortable on bind, I'm still scratching my head around how the game plan was for M80, how they wanted to approach this map. I do like the synergy that they were trying to do between the Teo and the Deadlock. I think there was one of those rounds where, you know, we both oohed, or all three of us oohed of like, oh, this is a nice play, like throwing the net through the TP and getting the Armageddon. But outside of that, outside of that combination between that Sentinel and that Initiator, I haven't seen too much that allows to get the max value out of a Viper Lurk that they have in their composition, or even activate an aggressive controller in that Clove. So it kind of leans to me that when you're outside of this type of like combo play between a Sentinel and an Initiator, it's lacking util to allow even your duelist to get anything in as this Yoru. So I still am trying to see if there's a little bit of an elaboration of that plan if they play this composition again next week. But there's definitely going to have to be some ironing out to do.
Just my biggest thing looking at this composition is if Weeded is ever on the Tejo is about to be terrifying. Was so many util kills.
He was getting a lot of value.
Yeah, that was absolutely insane. So I like some of the ideas that they had kind of going on with that, but unfortunately just not quite enough. And for TSM, I mean, we get to see just a little bit more and more coming out from them, and being able to see some of that clutch factor coming out. I mean, Roy, even when first kills aren't necessarily going their way or a little behind in that, I mean, they're doing a really good job in being able to stay solid and be able to bounce back up against the team that, well, M80 is the one that we talk a lot of times being as that explosive team.
Right, absolutely. And I mean, you have to wonder, right? Because M80 did come into this knowing exactly the composition that TSM was running, as well as how they're going to approach the map. So the fact that they didn't seem like they had the best answers to some of these problems is a little concerning in terms of how they approached it. But I think overall, you're absolutely right. I think it's just GMD's being relieved of the IGL duty, kind of leaning into that secondary IGL role, has really stepped up and has really allowed him to just like be in this sort of stress-free environment, stress-free mental that's allowing him to just lock into a slightly higher degree.
It's just slightly lock in both maps. He was doing fantastic, man. I mean, it's definitely it's been working out.
He's an unsung hero for sure, because I think when you're looking at this roster, and he has more veterancy in this roster, if you're looking at his tenure in Valorant. He started from the get-go when Valorant first came out, from the Gen G roster until now, right? But then you're going into Ascension towards the end of the season, the run that they've been having, upsetting all those top four in the past season, having almost a deep run in the group stages. I think again it was a few tiebreakers and overtime that really split the difference of TSM not making it through into the top four going into the brackets. But GMD has been a strong, pivotal, consistent controller player and clutch player for the team too. You think here that you're trying to create more space with these smokes for your players, but when he's out of util and he's going to have to go in and fight with everybody else, he heads up display. I mean, head on a swivel, knows exactly where to look at, and very, very precise and pinpoint from locking from one player to the next to making sure here that they capitalize on rounds for TSM.
I mean, I love too that we started this off saying like unsung hero and really been able to sing his praises so far, and definitely deserved those praises. I'm glad now that for a post-match interview, we'll get to talk with none other than GMD. So let's head over to that now. I don't know if you can hear Vans. Vans is on one today, but GMD, congratulations on this victory. 3-0, one of the few undefeated teams. How does it feel to be starting this year Challengers off so strong?
I mean, it's definitely not the same Challengers we played for the last 2 years with TSM. It always got like a bit worse. Well, it'd be easier for us, I guess. But yeah, I mean, it feels good. You know, M80 is one of the signed teams. We want to be the best team, and we have to beat these signed teams to kind of like claim that we're the best team, right? So yeah, it feels pretty good to start strong, and especially with like rookies like Recoil and Vora. Both of them, it's like their first time playing on like a signed team. So I'm happy that we can start strong, because I thought it'd be the hardest part is getting these games in for them. Even for us, you know, like it's always some rust after a long season like last year. So yeah, it feels good.
I mean, I want to talk about rookies here, specifically Vora too, being able to IGL and you being able to focus kind of on your game. How has that been then for you heading into the season? Because on the scoreboard, it's definitely turning out well.
Yeah. So I worked out as I was supposed to call for the team, played a couple scrims, did not go as planned at all, and I think we're getting like embarrassed by most teams. So I was like, well, maybe it's not. Maybe someone else can call. So Jordan stepped up, and Jordan, which is Vora, stepped up, and has been doing a very good job for us. Makes me able to like mid round a bit more and like kind of like do my own thing, which I like obviously as a player. Calling is very demanding on like you know, and I can look at my crosshair, which is way easier. I don't have to like look at radar as much. So it definitely feels good for me personally, but also for the team. I think it's better that Vora is IGLing. And he's been like, our coach has been helping me a lot. Like NBS has been great for a team. Like Vora has been like improving so fast. And then even when we get to a couple quick wins, like we've been 2-0 most teams so far. Lost the map to Trust and Plug, but I think it's like he gains confidence every map. And it's because of the whole team. We're playing so well, and we listen to him, we trust him. And I think that's like crucial for a young IGL.
That's awesome to hear the support system is there for Vora to be able to succeed here. And you're saying too, like he's still gaining this confidence. So this isn't even like the complete TSM we'll get to see yet. This is only the beginning for the team.
Yeah, definitely with the players we picked and the roles that we worked on, like the IGLing is gonna get better, or we're gonna be more structured. Our coach has been amazing. So I do believe we'll get only better. And it's pretty fast paced so far. I think the first few weeks were rough for us. Now scrims are better. We have a bigger playbook. Every day gets bigger. So yeah, I think that definitely it'd be way better than like even a week. Every week it's been better.
Glad to hear for sure. And then I have one question that I want to ask looking back at this series. Two, actually. Sorry, I lied to you. First game, looking at this fracture, you guys start off pretty strong. Then M80 just kind of flipped the script. You're able to take it to a triple OT in the end and close it out. But was there something that they kind of caught you off guard with? Or was this kind of like one of those growing pains with this new IGL and trying to figure things out? Or do you think that they maybe just had a little tape on you and got to abuse that?
No, I think I'm not gonna help the teams too much, but I think the counter to us was like the op. Like Otianos was upping us every round. Props to him. Found like a gap in their play. We fixed it a bit later in the half, but you know, a half is only 12 rounds. You don't realize instantly that you're getting countered. Took us a bit, like maybe a few extra rounds to figure it out. But the upper was giving us a lot of trouble with that tail. With tail, you don't have that much info, so the upper sometimes they get like free kills. And it kind of got away with it, and a half can snowball pretty fast. Like They got ults, they got a couple rounds. We have to eco. So yeah, I think the op for us was very annoying to deal with.
That's fair. That's fair. At least you're able to still close that out in the end. And then the very last question, looking back at this bind, we got to see TSM play it all 3 weeks. We go from the Brim to the Astra back to the Brim. Is this just something that's a little bit more comfortable, or?
I just do what I'm told. If I'm playing Astra that day, I'm playing Astra. And I mean, I like both, honestly. I'm confident on every agent that has smokes. Duelist, not so much my cup of tea, but everything else I can probably play. So yeah, no, whatever like we think the team wants that there, and if we showed too much the week prior and we want to switch up a tiny thing, like a very small thing, then we can switch the controller, and it's not a big deal to us. It's not a big deal to me, and it helps refresh the playbook.
Oh, makes a lot of sense. GMD, thank you so much for all the insight. This
Yes.
match, the team, everything. Congrats again on the win. Have a good night. Okay.
And you too.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Well, the first series, the 2-0, GMD again, like great insight for the team. Love to see that. And we're still going to have a little bit more Valorant. Stay tuned. It's going to be Shopify Rebellion Black versus YFP after a short break.